The matchup is officially set for Super Bowl 60, and it is New England against Seattle, with the Seahawks opening as 4.5-point favorites and nearly every national outlet already leaning Seattle. Inside the Patriots world, that outside noise is being acknowledged, but it is not driving the message. The reality is simple. This team is back in the Super Bowl for the first time in 7 years. AFC champions again, and this run is being framed internally as the start of a new era built around Mike Vrabel and Drake Maye. That context matters, because everything about this week has felt like a bridge between what Patriots fans lived for 2 decades and what this next chapter is supposed to become. There is also a strong sense of history tied to this matchup. 11 years after Super Bowl 49, another meeting with Seattle brings back memories of Malcolm Butler's interception and the moment that launched the second dynasty. No one inside the building is pretending that this is the same roster or the same situation, but the emotional weight of playing the Seahawks on this stage is real. For a fan base that has waited 7 years to get back here, the tone has been less about surprise and more about appreciation. The message has been to take it in, because getting to this point again is not easy in today's NFL. From a health standpoint, the Patriots are using the 2-week break as a major advantage. Robert Spillane is dealing with an ankle issue that was re-aggravated, but he finished the last game on the field and was celebrating afterward, which points toward him being available. Harold Landry is the bigger concern. He is dealing with a knee injury, missed 2 games, and has only played 10 snaps over the last 2 games. The belief is that the injury is more serious than publicly suggested, and while the extra rest helps, there is real uncertainty about how effective he can be. On the Seattle side, there are also major injury storylines. Zach Charbonnet is out for the year with a torn ACL. Charles Cross is dealing with multiple lower body issues, including foot and hamstring. The most closely watched situation is Sam Darnold's oblique. He was clearly receiving treatment during the NFC Championship game, and while he finished, the way that injury response to hits will be a major factor, especially against a Patriots defense that prides itself on swarming the quarterback. When looking at the coaching edge, Mike Vrabel's resume is being leaned on heavily. Multiple division titles, multiple AFC Championship appearances, and now another Super Bowl trip give him a level of big game credibility that matters in a week like this. On the other side, Mike Macdonald is still early in his head coaching career. That does not mean he cannot win this game, but from New England's perspective, Vrabel's experience in these moments is seen as a real advantage. At quarterback, the conversation is more complicated. Drake Maye did not play his best game against Denver, and his playoff performances have not been perfect. Still, inside this matchup breakdown, the Patriots are backing Maye over Sam Darnold. The numbers favor Maye in completion percentage, yards, touchdowns, interceptions, and quarterback rating. Beyond stats, the confidence comes from what Maye can do when plays break down. He rushed for over 60 yards, including a critical late first down on a naked bootleg that he kept himself. That kind of decision-making and athleticism is being viewed as a difference maker, especially if protection breaks down. The skill position comparison is where Seattle clearly draws respect and concern. Their running back situation, tight end A.J. Barner, and especially their wide receiver group are seen as elite. Jackson Smith-Njigba is the focal point of that conversation. 10 catches, 153 yards, and a touchdown in the championship game, along with historic production in that setting, have made him the primary matchup nightmare. The expectation is that Christian Gonzalez, Marcus Jones, or a combination of coverages will be tasked with slowing him down, and there is no sugarcoating how difficult that will be. The level of respect for Smith-Njigba is extremely high. Along the offensive line, both teams are viewed as relatively even, but with important individual storylines. Will Campbell rebounded with a strong performance and did not allow a sack to Nick Bonito, which was a major positive sign. Mike Onwenu is in the middle of a breakout season. Morgan Moses has been solid overall, but did not have his best game last week. Protection is the central theme here. When Drake Maye has time, he has shown he can deliver, including on big plays like the flea flicker to M. Collins. When he does not, the offense stalls and sacks pile up. Against a Seattle front that is considered one of the toughest the Patriots have faced in this playoff run, this is a major pressure point for the entire game plan. Defensively, the Patriots feel strongest on the interior. Christian Barmore and Milton Williams are being highlighted as one of the best interior duos, with contributions from players like Hughes, Tonga, and Leonard Taylor. The Seahawks counter with Byron Murphy and Leonard Williams, making this one of the most physical interior matchups in the game. The numbers in pressures and tackles show how close these units are, and the battle in the middle is expected to be intense. On the edge, Seattle is given the advantage, led by DeMarcus Lawrence, who consistently affects the quarterback even when sack totals do not fully show it. With Harold Landry limited, New England's edge rush relies heavily on Anthony Jennings, who has been strong against the run but less consistent as a pass rusher. Linebacker is viewed as even, assuming Robert Spillane is healthy. Christian Ellis has been a standout in the postseason, and his physical style is part of why this defense is so aggressive. In the secondary, New England is confident. Christian Gonzalez's coverage numbers, pass breakups, and efficiency metrics are being used as evidence that he is playing at an elite level. Marcus Jones continues to emerge as one of the better nickel corners, and Carlton Davis has been solid. The belief is that this group, as a whole, gives the Patriots an edge in coverage, even against Seattle's explosive passing attack. Special teams is where Seattle is clearly respected. Jason Myers' reliability from long range is a major factor. While missed kicks and inconsistency have hurt New England recently, there is also a serious concern about kick and punt returns, with a strong warning internally not to give returners easy opportunities in a game where one special teams play could swing everything. The projected score from this breakdown is a close, high-scoring game, with New England winning 31-27. The confidence comes from belief in the defense and the idea that Drake Maye will rise in a big moment. The concern is still centered on the offense and whether the line can hold up long enough for plays to develop. The Seahawks defense is being put in the same tier as Houston and Denver, meaning this will not be easy and every mistake will be magnified. This first part of the story is really about where this team stands right now, back on the biggest stage, leaning on a new quarterback, trusting a defense that has carried them, and facing a Seattle team that most of the outside world expects to win. From your perspective as a Patriots fan, do you believe this team has what it takes to win this matchup? Or are there specific areas that worry you the most going into Super Bowl 60? The conversation now shifts from what this matchup looks like on paper to what it could become once the game actually starts, because this is where Patriots fans know things often separate. Schemes, talent, and numbers matter. But this franchise's history has always been shaped by moments where preparation, discipline, and situational football tilt the game. That is exactly where this Super Bowl will be decided. The Patriots are not being framed internally as the more talented team across the board, but they are being framed as the team that can force Seattle to play uncomfortable football for 4 quarters. One of the biggest underlying themes is how this Patriots defense matches up stylistically against Sam Darnold throughout his career. When Darnold has been kept clean and allowed to stay in rhythm, he has shown he can manage games and even make explosive throws. When pressure arrives early and often, his mechanics tend to break down. That is where New England's ability to generate pressure without selling out becomes critical. Even if the edge rush is not dominant snap to snap, the interior push from Christian Barmore and Milton Williams collapsing the pocket can be just as disruptive. The goal is not necessarily to rack up sacks, but to speed up Darnold's internal clock and force throws before routes fully develop. This is also where Christian Gonzalez's role becomes even more important. If New England can limit explosive plays on the outside and keep Jackson Smith-Njigba from completely taking over the game, everything else becomes more manageable. The Patriots are not expecting to erase him because very few defenses can. The plan is to contest every catch, limit yards after contact, and force Seattle to sustain long drives rather than score quickly. That plays directly into the strength of a defense that prides itself on tackling and communication. Offensively, the Patriots' approach is expected to be patient even if the game script does not immediately favor them. There is a strong belief that Drake Maye's mobility is not just a bonus, but a core part of how this offense can survive against Seattle's pass rush. Designed movement, bootlegs, and readoption looks are all tools to slow down edge pressure and keep defenders from teeing off. The coaching staff has seen what happens when Maye is asked to sit in a collapsing pocket for too long, and that is not where this team wants to live. Ball security is another quiet but massive factor. In games of this magnitude, one turnover can completely flip momentum. Rhamondre Stevenson's ability to protect the football while still being physical between the tackles is being emphasized heavily. If the Patriots can consistently get 4 to 6 yards on early downs, it changes everything. It keeps the offense on schedule, limits obvious passing situations, and keeps Seattle's defensive front from pinning its ears back. Special teams, despite being an area of concern, also represent an opportunity. The Patriots know they cannot afford mistakes, but they also understand how a single big return or blocked kick can shift the emotional balance of a Super Bowl. Discipline, lane, integrity, and situational awareness are being stressed constantly. This is not the game to test fate by kicking into dangerous returners or getting sloppy with coverage responsibilities. There is also an emotional layer to this game that cannot be ignored. For a roster that includes younger players who have never experienced this stage, leadership matters. Mike Vrabel's presence is not just about play calling or challenges, it is about controlling the temperature of the moment. The message has been clear. Do not let the moment become bigger than the work. Preparation, repetition, and trust in assignments are what got this team here. And deviating from that now would be the fastest way to lose control. What makes this matchup so compelling for Patriots fans is that it feels like a measuring stick game. Not just for one season, but for the direction of the franchise. A win would validate the belief that this new era, built around Maye and a retooled defense, is ahead of schedule. A loss, while painful, would still provide clarity on where the final gaps are. Either way, this game is not being treated as a fluke opportunity, but as the first real test of whether this group can carry the Patriots' identity forward on the biggest stage. As kickoff gets closer, the outside narrative will likely continue to lean Seattle. That is nothing new for New England. Inside this fanbase, the debate is already alive. Some see a defense that can absolutely win this game. Others see an offense that still feels fragile under pressure. Both viewpoints are valid, and that tension is exactly what makes this Super Bowl so fascinating. Now, I want to hear directly from you. Based on everything we've broken down, do you trust the Patriots defense to carry them to a win? Or do you believe the offense has to play its best game of the season for New England to lift the trophy? As this conversation keeps unfolding, it becomes clear that this Super Bowl is less about surprises and more about execution under stress. When you strip away the hype, the logos, and the memories tied to past Patriots teams, what you are left with is a roster that has been tested repeatedly during this playoff run. Houston, Denver, and other top-tier defenses forced New England to adjust, to grind, and to survive games where nothing came easy. That experience is shaping how this team is approaching Seattle. There is a belief that if this game becomes chaotic, physical, and mentally exhausting, it favors New England far more than a clean, wide-open shootout. One of the quiet advantages being discussed is time of possession. The Patriots understand that keeping the ball away from Seattle's playmakers is not just about protecting the defense, but about controlling the emotional flow of the game. Long drives, even if they end in field goals, wear down a defense and shorten the game. That puts pressure on Seattle to be efficient every time they touch the ball, something that becomes harder if Sam Darnold is dealing with even minor discomfort in his oblique or facing constant interior pressure. Third downs will likely tell the real story. The Patriots' defense has been at its best when forcing third and long and disguising coverage late. Christian Gonzalez's ability to hold up in man coverage gives the rest of the secondary flexibility, and that allows New England to send pressure from unexpected angles. If Seattle is consistently stuck in 3rd and 7 or longer, that plays directly into the Patriots' strengths. Conversely, if Seattle stays ahead of the chains and turns this into a rhythm passing game, it becomes much harder to slow down their offense. On the other side, Maye's composure is the biggest variable. This is the largest stage he has ever played on, and while his physical tools are unquestioned, the mental side of the game will be tested in ways that cannot be simulated. What gives the Patriots confidence is that Maye has already shown he can make high-level decisions late in games. That fourth-quarter run against Denver, where he trusted his instincts and secured the win with his legs, is being pointed to as proof that the moment does not overwhelm him. The challenge now is doing that against a